Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Radha Madhav ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna, good morning everyone. Today we are reading from 3rd canto, chapter 32. Yesterday we covered 38. Today we are 39 and 40 because 39 doesn't have a purport, so I believe we are going to do both of them. Okay, so before I start, so yesterday we heard from Maharaj for such a wonderful class. We're talking about the frustrations of material existence and how it's like we get stuck in this phenomenon called arrival fallacy. We just imagine how things will happen. Just hearing about that yesterday, I've been repeating that to myself, and I told my friend and my father about this phenomenon called arrival fallacy, where we think something is going to be so good or so great, but then eventually it's not what it builds up to be. But with the hope of that little bit of happiness, we continue our material lives. We're drowning constantly in the ocean of birth and death, but we come up for a little breath and we feel that is happiness. And just for that little happiness, we spend so much effort and time in our life for that little bit of happiness. But it also said yesterday, unless the living entity receives the mercy of the saintly person, it is not possible for him to get out of the darkness. So it is possible to get out of the darkness, but one cannot do that by his own endeavor. He needs the mercy of the spiritual master, the saintly devotees of the Lord. So after that, this is towards the end of this chapter, which is titled Entanglement in Fruitive Activities. So these are instructions by Lord Kapila to his mother, Devahuti. And for the last few chapters, this is what is going on, Lord Kapila is telling his mother. First he started talking about the explanation of devotional service, what are the glories of devotional service, and what happens when one is entangled in fruitive activities, results of adverse fruitive activities. He also talked about the effects of material nature. Just to refer to my notes a little bit. He also talked about the understanding of material nature and eventually movements of living entities who are stuck in this material nature. And right now we are studying entanglement in fruitive activities, and next chapter is the last chapter in this canto where we talk about the activities of Lord Kapila. So after hearing a lot of different instructions in this chapter, now finally Kapila Dev is telling his mom, who should these instructions not be given to? It's kind of has a little negative spin that all these instructions are beautiful, I'm telling you, O mother, but who should this not be spoken to? So I'll just read the translation of this and do the verse of the next one, if that's okay. So the translation of this verse goes, Lord Kapila continued, this instruction is not meant for the envious, for the agnostics, or for persons who are unclean in their behavior. Nor is it for hypocrites or for persons who are proud of material possessions. Then we'll read the next verse, verse 40. But before that, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So verse 40. Na lolupāyopadiśen. Na lolupāyopadiśen. Na gṛhārūḍha-cetase. Na gṛhārūḍha-cetase. nābhaktāya ca me jātu. Nābhaktāya ca me jātu. Na mad-bhakta-dviṣām api. Na mad-bhakta-dviṣām api. Na lolupāyopadiśen. Na gṛhārūḍha-cetase. Nābhaktāya ca me jātu. Na mad-bhakta-dviṣām api. You would like to chant? Na lolupāyopadiśen. Na gṛhārūḍha-cetase. Na mad-bhakta-dviṣām api. Na gṛhārūḍha-cetase. Nābhaktāya ca me jātu. Na mad-bhakta-dviṣām. Vaishnavis. Na lolupāyopadiśen. Na gṛhārūḍha-cetase. Na lolupāyopadiśen. We'll do the word for word. Na, not. Lolupāya, to the greedy. Upadiśet, one should instruct. Na, not. Gṛhārūḍha-cetase, to one who is too attached to family life. Na, not. Abhaktāya, to the non-devotee. Cha, and. Me, of me. Jātu, ever. Na, not. Mad, my. Bhakta, devotees. Dviṣām, to those who are envious of. Api, also. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. It is not to be instructed to persons who are too greedy and too attached to family life, not to persons who are non-devotees and who are envious of the devotees and of the personality of Godhead. Purport. Persons who are always planning to do harm to other living entities are not eligible to understand Krishna consciousness and cannot enter into the realm of transcendental loving service to the Lord. Also, there are so-called disciples who become submissive to a spiritual master most artificially with an ulterior motive. They also cannot understand what Krishna consciousness or devotional service is. Persons who, due to being initiated by another sect of religious faith, do not find devotional service as the common platform for approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also cannot understand Krishna consciousness. We have experienced that some students come to join us, but because of being biased in some particular type of faith, they leave our camp and become lost in the wilderness. Actually, Krishna consciousness is not a sectarian religious faith. It is a teaching process for understanding the Supreme Lord and our relationship with Him. Anyone can join this movement without prejudice, but unfortunately there are persons who feel differently. It is better, therefore, not to instruct the science of Krishna consciousness to such persons. Generally, materialistic persons are after some name, fame, and material gain. And so if someone takes to Krishna consciousness for these reasons, he will never be able to understand the philosophy. Such persons take to religious principles as a social decoration. They admit themselves into some cultural institution for the sake of name only, especially in this age. Such persons also cannot understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Even if one is not greedy, one is not greedy for material possessions but is too attached to family life, he also cannot understand Krishna consciousness. Superficially, such persons are not very greedy for material possessions, but they are too attached to wife, children, and family improvement. When a person is not contaminated by the above mentioned faults, yet as the ultimate issue is not interested in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or if he is a non-devotee, he also cannot understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Last couple of verses we read that who should this the instructions that Lord Kapila is giving to his mother, who should this not be told to? So it could feel like we are reading a lot about these different categories. So when we go out in Harinam doing books, should we start judging people like based on do they fall in one of these categories? So let me not tell them about the science of Krishna consciousness. It's on the contrary, like we know that in our society, in the Hare Krishna society, we go out and openly like spread the holy name of the Lord. We try to like engage everyone, whoever is interested in this devotional service. So it kind of seems a little like contradictory. This verse is mentioned in the Bhagavatam, but also in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions a similar thing in chapter 18, verse 67. Translation of that verse is, this confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. So there are some common like categories that are described in both, and one such which stands out to me is one who is envious of me or my devotees. So we can, like I said, we can either go out and start judging people as to what category do they fall to, or we could look at ourselves and then understand if we have certain qualities, if we are too attached to material life, if we are having the quality of we are too greedy for material possessions, if we are envious of other devotees and Krishna, then although we are practicing this philosophy of Krishna consciousness, we won't be able to fully understand like what this is. We won't be able to fully internalize like what is being taught to us. So this instruction that is being given, it can be applied in both ways. So I was speaking about my father about like this verse and the purport and the translation, and he told me a very interesting point. That Lord Krishna is saying this in Bhagavad Gita, and Lord Kapila, who is incarnation of Krishna, is saying this in the Bhagavatam. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, we know by his example that he did not make any distinction. He was so like, when he saw the people engaged in like material activities, he was so like overloaded with mercy for them, seeing like how they're leading their life into a hellish like destination. He did not consider any such like disqualification. He wanted to engage everyone and anyone in the service of like in the service of the Supreme Lord. And we also see this example. Well, Mahaprabhu was supremely like merciful. He's the Mahavadanya avatar, but also Lord Nityananda. So if you can understand what I'm going to say. So in Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda's Leela, so once when Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur were out preaching, like in Navadvip, they met these two brothers, Jagaya and Madhai, who like possibly have all these qualities that we are like is being described here, who were drunk, who used to be, it said in the purport, people who are always planning to do harm to other living entities. They were just like that. They would harass other people. They would be drunk and they'd create nuisance in the society. They had no respect for any sort of religious activities. They did not perform any Vedic like ritual or anything that was prescribed to them, although they were born of very high caste. They were sons of Brahmins, believe. So they fall in this category of not being qualified at all. But still, Lord Nityananda was so merciful. He went to them and he started telling them about like the glories of devotional service. And I don't remember exactly which one of the brother. One of them became very antagonistic. Could anyone tell me? Was it Jagai or Madhai who was antagonistic and wanted to attack? Was it Madhai? Okay, so he wanted to attack Lord Nityananda. Actually, he did attack, but Jagai had a little qualification. He was trying to hold him back. So on seeing this, so Lord Chaitanya, like he became like, when he heard about this, he became very upset and he wanted to like take Sudarshan Chakra and like finish both of them. But Lord Nityananda told him, like, my dear Lord, like you have come here to deliver the most fallen, like the most patita, like the people in this world. If these are the people who are the most fallen, if you don't like save them, like, or in other word, like this is the actual purpose of your avatar. So please have mercy on them and please save them. And so Lord Chaitanya had mercy on them, and eventually Jagai and Madhai became very good devotees, started practicing Krishna consciousness. So this is the example that we see that we have to imbibe in our society of Krishna consciousness, and that is also what Prabhupada did. So when he came to the West, obviously there was no one who was not attached to family life or was like not materially very attached to possessions. There's some people who were seeking something higher. They were trying to live a detached life. But even then, there's one or other category that they fall into. But Srila Prabhupada did not consider any such disqualification. He thought that these are the most like ripened candidates who can take up Krishna consciousness. But there's still some distinction that has to be made. So when we read the 10 offenses to the holy name every morning, I believe the 8th offense is to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And so then we might wonder, on one hand, we're supposed to spread the holy name to everyone and anyone, but also we should not instruct the glories of the holy name to someone who does not have faith or is too attached to material life. So how do we understand the balance? So one way we can understand is, so when we're doing Sankirtan, we're just spreading the vibration of the holy name. We are spreading the sound vibration of the names of the Lord. So this is not instructing people in what they're supposed to do. Because people don't have any pious credits, they're very unfortunate. They need to be brought to a place where they can understand the glories of the holy name. And just by hearing the holy name, they start to have some favorable feelings towards the devotees or the Supreme Lord. They might feel like these are some nice people, they're some nice ladies and gentlemen, they're behaving in a very gentlemanly manner and they were singing something which sounds so beautiful. So just by that little appreciation, they gain some security, some favorable attitude towards devotional service. So then it also comes upon us that as representatives of Srila Prabhupada's society, we conduct ourselves in a way so that when people see us, they have a favorable attitude. If, let's say in simple activities while we're going out on the street, if we throw trash on the street, someone might be displeased by that, like people want everything to be clean. Does not always happen in Los Angeles. But when someone sees that and let's say they see our certain parts of our dress, like let's say we have a japa bag in our hand while we do that, or they see that we have tilak. So they might not know who this person is, but eventually when they see the devotees, they might associate that behavior. Okay, these are seemingly people who are talking about a very high philosophy, but I saw one of them doing something which was not very nice. Or let's say we treat someone in a very rude way, while in our daily interactions. So they might have that unfavorable disposition towards the devotees. These devotees, obviously one does not represent the whole society, but someone might have that feeling. So it is up to us, the onus is on us, that we conduct ourselves in such a way that people, when they see us, they have a nice favorable disposition towards the Hare Krishna mantra and the Hare Krishna philosophy. And like I said, just by having a little favorable disposition, one day or someday they might start, like they might receive a book and they might feel like these are some nice people, like they seem like they're practicing what they're talking about and they seem happy, so I can also check out what they're seeing. So that is the least what we can do. We don't have to instruct the faithless people about the glories of the holy name, but just by our conduct and our behavior and just by our chanting the holy name and them seeing the dress of a devotee, they get purified. So that is how we can balance the two instructions, that we should not be instructing these signs. But also there's another point. So it's said that there's three kinds of devotees. There's the Uttamadhikari, Madhyamadhikari and the Kanishtadhikari. So Prabhupada says that for the sake of preaching, sometimes the Uttamadhikari also comes to the stage of the Madhyamadhikari, because the Uttamadhikari thinks that everyone's better than me. Like everyone's better than me and I'm the most fallen, although they are the highest devotees. But they have to come to the stage of Madhyama sometimes so that they can distinguish between different kinds of devotees. Some devotees, like people, are at different stages of their devotional life. We never know how advanced someone is. Even if we see them the first time on the street and they've never seen the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, they've never heard the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But it could be so that in the last life they performed a lot of devotional service, and in this life they just begin when they receive the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, when they hear the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So we directly cannot make distinction as to how advanced a person is. But let's say someone is very clearly being antagonistic. When we go in Harinam, sometimes we see people who try to attack the devotees. It has happened many times, like in Gainesville, when we would do Harinam on the streets. So then, obviously we cannot continue chanting in their presence. We have to protect the devotees and be away from them. And that is probably the best way we can engage that person for the present moment, by not giving them more reasons to behave antagonistically. We can just step away from them. And I know that devotees pray for such people, that this person is so unfortunate that he's drunk, he's inebriated, and is trying to harm the devotees of the Lord. That is the worst thing someone can do. And Krishna is not happy at all when the devotees of his devotees are harmed. But the exalted devotees, they pray for such people, that I hope that one day his heart becomes purified and the covering that he has taken upon him, that becomes uncovered, and he gets a favorable attitude towards the Lord and his devotees. And such prayers are actually very powerful. I have known a few cases in which a devotee would come in, a regular person would come in contact with the devotees, but they were just nice in their behavior. They smiled at them, and it said that when the Harinam procession is passing and someone just smiles at them, they gain a lot of favorable swikriti. So just by smiling at them. So I know of one of my friends who used to come to the Krishna lunch program in Gainesville, and he was just nice, college going boy, and he would come, get lunch, and just have a few, exchange a few pleasantries and then go away. And the devotees who were serving lunch, there were a couple of Matajis who were serving lunch, they somehow started getting this feeling this person is acting towards us in a very favorable way, his behavior is very gentlemanly. And so they started praying that I really pray that this person becomes a devotee, starts becoming interested in the Krishna consciousness philosophy. And they did not tell him any direct instructions. But every day after coming for lunch, this particular person, he slowly started becoming interested, what are you guys practicing, or what are these books that you have on display, what do these books say? And slowly that person was invited to one of the the outreach programs that we had at Krishna House. And long story short, now that person is an initiated devotee who lived in the ashram for a couple of years too, while going to school and while working. So all this he could do because devotees prayed for him. I know this particular devotees who told me that we're really praying for this person, that he's a favorable, he's a suitable vessel for the message of devotional service, and we just pray that somehow or other he gains that interest. Because while you're doing certain activities on the campus at University of Florida, you're not allowed to directly preach to the people. You cannot directly engage in religious try to be religious and say that this is what we're practicing, you should come to us. We're just there doing Krishna lunch, we're just there doing prasadam distribution. But when someone is favorable and people pray for them and invite them to an outreach program, slowly that gives them more and more chances to learn about the science of Krishna consciousness. Okay, so moving on to a different category of people. So we see many times that it's said that people who are too attached to family life, they're not very suitable, or they're not very qualified to understand this philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And that could seem a little heavy. A lot, like I recently entered like grihastha life, and a lot of us are grihasthas and have families. So how do we understand this? In a simple way, these are not directly meant for devotees who have families and are practicing devotional service. These are meant for people who are too attached to family life. And devotees do not fall in that category. They understand, or we are supposed to understand, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that, "Oh dear Lord, like all my family and my children and all the possessions I have, these are not mine. These are actually yours, and I'm just a caretaker for them." And that is the mood of a devotee. That somehow or other I have been entrusted the care of my wife, my children, and they are on their own paths of devotional service. So I'm not their owner. They're not meant for my enjoyment. They're just here so I can take care of them, and they're actually helping me come closer to Krishna. Because by taking care of them, Srila Prabhupada said often that the children in the Krishna conscious movement, they're Vaikuntha children, they're not ordinary children. And taking care of them, for mothers, taking care of them is as good as like doing direct devotional service in the temple. So that's how we understand that for devotees who are engaged in family life, this does not apply to. Or it also said a category of people who externally act as devotees. So if you're one of those people who are just externally acting as devotees, who are externally just putting on the dress of a devotee and engaging in devotional service, but if you have ulterior motives, or if you're internally we're too attached to family life, we cannot really understand Krishna consciousness. We might be acting like everyone else does. We are doing the acts of devotional service, we are chanting, we are coming and doing kirtan, but until we have some internal qualifications, we won't really be able to understand what is the crux of the science that is being taught. But also there is a category of people who, just let me refer to, Prabhupada said here, also there are so-called disciples who become submissive to a spiritual master most artificially with an ulterior motive. So this point of ulterior motive, and there's materialistic persons who are after some name, fame and material gain. It said that they also won't be able to understand the devotional service even if they're instructed to. So what is it that stops them? So we know, like Lord Chaitanya instructs in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that you should always chant the holy name of Krishna, like Kishayane ki bhojane ki bajagarane aharnisha bala Krishna bhaja Krishna balaha badane. It goes something like that. So whether you're sleeping or waking up, or you're like just going through your regular day-to-day activities, you should chant the holy name of Krishna. But what is the qualification of being able to do that? He says in the Shastrakam, Trinadapi sunichana tararopi sahishnuna amani namanadena kirtaniya sadahari. So unless one develops that quality of being humble than a straw of the street and more tolerant than a straw in the street, and more tolerant than straw in the street and humble than a blade of grass, he won't be able to practice this instruction that we're given of chanting the holy name constantly. And we all might have like experienced this in day-to-day life. So when we're sitting down to chant in the morning, our mind goes so many different places. And I was reflecting upon this, that there's two broad categories in which my mind starts like really getting stuck. It is what someone told me. If someone told me something that I did not like, or someone told me something that I liked too much, like I got proud about, I start meditating on those kind of statements, those kind of interactions. And the other category is that I start planning, like what do I have to do today? Like, and this, I'm exactly going to do this, like that, and after that, this is going to be done, so I'll move on to that activity. So we start planning, or we start meditating on our interactions. And both of them are kind of contrary to the instruction in Sikshastakam. In one way, because we're not humble, we think that we deserve some respect, and when someone disrespects us, that kind of brushes off our false ego, and we start meditating on that, like this devotee should not have treated me like this, and how I could have responded to that in a different way. And also because we're not humble, we think that we are the doers in our daily life. we are the one who is responsible for the activities that we are doing in daily life. And this is related in a subtle way, because when we are humble, we are not thinking that Krishna is the controller, Krishna is my maintainer, but I'm thinking that I'm responsible for everything that I have to do. So while I'm engaged in a conversation with Krishna, while I'm engaged in devotional service, all I can think of is about my own self. And when that made me realize that one actually practices humility, or one attains the stage of humility and is more tolerant, one is able to not get stuck or not start to ruminate on these kind of interactions or daily planning of activities. And then when our mind is freed, we are able to actually think and chant and focus on the holy name of the Lord. But before that I was mentioning about ulterior motives. So when one is after name, fame and material gain, and they take to Krishna consciousness, they're doing it for the wrong reasons. But even then, it's said in the Bhagavatam that akama sarva kama va moksha kama udaradi. Like, if one does not have any kind of desires, or if one has all kinds of desires, or if one desires liberation, every kind of class of people should engage very strongly in tivrena bhakti yogena, in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in a way it's seen it is disqualification, but it's still encouraged no matter what your disqualification is, if you're desiring everything. But one thing distinguishes both of them: if one has ulterior motives, and if one is very honest that, I have different motives, but I still want to perform devotional service. So that is the distinguishing quality. How honest are we in our motives for practicing devotional service? We could tell Krishna that I have such and such desires, I want some wealth, I want beautiful wife, I want children, and I have all these desires. But coming to Krishna and openly telling him. But then Krishna in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he's so merciful that he says, there's this verse which goes as Anya kami yadi kare Krishna bhajana na magiteha Krishnatar den swacharan. Like, if a person comes to Krishna and tells him that I have such and such desires, I'm performing devotional service, but I have so many desires, then Krishna says, Ama bhaje vishaya mage ei bada murkha. Krishna kahe ama bhaje mage vishaya sukha, amrita chadi vishaya mage ei bada murkha. Krishna says, this person engages in my transcendental loving service, but he's a fool number one, because he's worshipping me and asking for material desires, like fulfilling his material desires. This is just like a person who could get nectar, but leaving nectar, which is the devotional service of the Lord, he wants to drink poison, which is compared to material existence. The next verse is something which really amazes me. Krishna says, Ami vigya ei murkhe vishaya kenediba, swacharanamrita diya vishaya bhulaiba. Since I'm very intelligent, he is a fool, but I'm very intelligent. Why should I give this fool material prosperity? I know this is not good for him. Instead, I shall induce him to take the nectar of the shelter of my lotus feet and make him forget illusory material enjoyment. So this is the reason why everyone is invited, or everyone is encouraged to perform Krishna's devotional service. Because no matter what your desire is, no matter what your motive is, Krishna says, if someone just comes to and starts worshipping me, I am intelligent, although he is fool and he's asking for material prosperity. I know what is good for him and what is not good for him, so why should I give him the material prosperity? Instead, I shall induce him. Krishna is not saying that I shall force him to take my devotional service, because we all know that taking up devotional service is a matter of free will. We choose if we want to engage in Krishna service. Krishna says that I'll induce him to take the shelter of my lotus feet, or make certain arrangements that the person is induced to engage in devotional service. So that's how merciful Krishna is. So again, we can think about this verse in a matter of negative connotation, that we are not supposed to instruct all these different categories of people in devotional service. But on the other hand, Krishna is so merciful that somehow or other, if someone comes in contact with the devotees and gets a favorable attitude, disposition towards the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, somehow or other Krishna takes him and starts building the path by which that person can progress in devotional service. So that is how merciful Krishna is. Yeah, so trying to summarize what I understood and what I read from this and what Prabhupada is speaking. Prabhupada is elaborating on different kinds of people who are not eligible to understand Krishna consciousness, but in other purpose Prabhupada is also saying that we do not make such distinctions when it comes to engaging someone in devotional service. We try to understand where someone is coming from, what level they're at. It is a matter of like expertise. Not everyone can do that. So we try to see where someone is, and if someone is really antagonistic, we try to keep away from them for the matter of time, and we pray for them so that someday or other they can become favorable to our Krishna consciousness. But if someone is interested, even if someone has all the desires, is very attached to material life, even if they are so, we encourage them to somehow or other start chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and engaging in devotional service. And it's just the beauty of the process and the power of the process that the process cleanses them. It's given an example that when we step into the shower, we cannot complain about being dirty. So all we have to get a person to do is to step in the shower. And so while they're in the process of being cleansed, obviously dirt is going to come off, but we can feel encouraged by the fact that they have stepped into the shower. And that also goes for us. As long as we are in the path of devotional service, as long as we are sincerely and honestly engaging in the path of devotional service, all the other disqualifications that we have, becoming too attached, or if you're greedy and becoming envious, we should actively try to get rid of these qualities, but it's not all in our hand. By the mercy of the spiritual master and by the mercy of Krishna, all these disqualifications will slowly go away. All we need to do is somehow or other get engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to ask for questions, comments, and realizations. Yes, Prabhu in the back, we'll start from there.
Yeah, you were mentioning how devotees can pray to help that person become Krishna conscious. So is there any history of that in the Vedic literatures about people that prayed for this conditioned soul to become interested in Krishna consciousness?
Well, the kind of closest example I can think of is the case of Narada Muni and the hunter, the Mrigari. Like Narada Muni gave him a method by which he can change what he was already engaged in, but also like that method or his kind like behavior towards him, like that kind of caused him to reflect and understand that what this person is saying might be true, might be beneficial for me. And I'm not sure what happened behind the scene, but if Narada Muni prayed for that person, but that kind of reminds me of that story. I don't know if you have any other story in mind.
Yeah, no, I just never heard that before. I understand Narada Muni instructed the hunter; he gave him instructions, but it doesn't say anything about him praying, as far as I know, or I never recall anybody praying that, oh, I hope this conditioned soul becomes Krishna conscious. I just would like to be nice to have an example.
Being raised, and yeah, if someone else would share something else, the microphone is there.
Thank you for a very nice class, Prabhu. We can take the instruction of Prahlad also, the example of Prahlad, that he says when he's speaking to Nrsimhadev, that he's concerned in love. What is that verse? That out of love and concern, that out of love he's concerned for the state of the conditioned soul. So there's not a direct prayer there, as we may categorize as a prayer, but he's certainly concerned within his heart for the conditioned souls. So that is also a form of praying to the Lord. But I just wanted to add one other comment, and that was that in the verse it talks about not instructing. But that does not mean that we can't still engage.
I can still hear you. Yeah, we can engage them. Yes, Maharaj.
in Gaura Lila, Nimai Pandit, before he revealed his ecstatic states of Krishna consciousness, he was famous as a Pandit that could argue with you one way and defeat you, and then reverse and defeat the argument he just gave. So devotees in Navadvip would see Nimai Pandit coming along on the street, they would cross to the other side because they didn't want that he engages them in a debate. And they actually blessed Lord Chaitanya, or they prayed, as you said, you would make such a wonderful devotee. What is the point of all this scholarship if bhakti is not the conclusion? We pray that one day you'll be a great devotee. And Nimai Pandit said, may your prayers become true.
Such a nice example. Thank you, Maharaj. Sachitana Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Very nice class. Also, I think we're all familiar with that famous poem that Srila Prabhupada wrote in the Jaladutta. And he was, in one of his prayers, he was actually the whole thing about how to say this, praying for the conditioned souls. Like by your illusory energy, they are bewildered. But also by your will, they are like this, but they can also be liberated.
Yeah.
And many other beautiful statements that Prabhupada made about that.
It said that the heart of a Uttama devotee, it's all the devotee, it cries because it sees the conditions of the material,
Exactly.
entities. And in a way they're praying that somehow or other, please, create their good fortune so that they can understand devotional service. Nicholas and then Sadev.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your wonderful class. I was wanted to quote something about what you say about the devotees who are prayed also for these newcomers, and I was wondering if the devotees pray enough, if this person, the newcomer, has a really bad karma, by praying can the devotees take away their bad karma?
What I understand is it's not the devotees who takes the karma away, it's the person. It's a relation between the person and Krishna. So all the devotees praying that this person somehow comes forward in his relationship with Krishna, and it's up to Krishna and it's up to the person how much the person engages in devotional service. And Krishna, Krishna says, when once one chants my name, all his karma is he's relieved of all his karma. So it's not the devotee who's taking away that karma, but the devotee is just praying for some creation of some good fortune for the soul, so that he can progress on the path of his devotional service. So it's Krishna. Krishna can do miraculous things. Krishna can take away his karma, whatever his bad habits are. But that's the prayer to Krishna.
But Krishna wants to fulfill the devotee's desires in a way, right? So probably he'll make it possible.
Yeah, that is true. That's why Krishna told Arjuna that if I say something, maybe I won't keep it, but if you say something, I'll surely keep your word. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita. So, Kaunteya pratijanihi na me bhaktiya pranashyati. So because Prabhupada was so merciful, and because he prayed to Krishna, that's why all our good fortunes were created. So because Krishna fulfills the word of his devotee. Thank you. And
Thank you, Prabhu.
Krishna Kumar and Sadev, Prabhu.
Yeah, the example is also Haridas Thakur, who prayed while he was getting dragged to the marketplaces, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, because of the prayer, had to felt the desire to take on the lashings, and so and those lashings were out of love. So oftentimes when we're preaching, we get preached at, because the conditioned soul's false ego is thinking themselves to be very elevated, and thus the highest example is that we can pray that that person gets Krishna's mercy, which is very difficult.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for a wonderful class. His Grace Parameshwar Prabhu when I was traveling with him, he always encouraged me to read Marking Bhagavad Dharma before distributing books. And it reminded me this last point about devotees praying for conditioned souls. In the 7th, I think it's the 7th verse, Prabhupada says, Taba icha hoy jari tadara udar, bujibe nischai tabe kata se tumar. And the translation is that, I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message.
Yeah.
So, beautiful prayer from Prabhupada. One of 12, I think, in the whole song.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes, okay. Maybe the last comment.
In regards of knowing who is qualifying, who is not qualifying to be eligible to get or to be engaged in devotional service, I was remember one class given by Hari Parsha Prabhu. So he was quoting Shastras that anyone who has a human form, just by having a human form, becomes qualified to be taught devotional service. And then the question was saying, yeah, but how do we approach, people who are, like you're going out for Sankirtan, and you say so many people, and your mind starts judging, should I approach this person? So he said, also quoting Shastra, which, that we should approach 3 times, he said. Once, if the person rejected, okay, twice, 3 times. And he was mentioning something that Jiva Goswami was saying about this. And after 3 times, if the person is envious and is not favorable, okay, but you did your duty. I don't know, I just wanted to quote this from Hari Parsha Prabhu.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Śrīmad Bhagavatam ki, Śrīla Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.